While Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat's inspiring run came to an end in the finals, and both will tell you there's no such thing as moral victories, we did learn a lot about them. In the process, no pun intended, we also learned a lot about the teams Butler left behind over the first 8 years of his career. For the longest time, people thought Butler was the problem, as critics called him a difficult teammate and a coach killer. Turns out what he needed all along was a franchise that valued competing, a maniacal work ethic, and above all, winning as much as he did. There were many questions about Butler's ceiling when the Bulls made him the 30th pick in the 2011 draft. But his work ethic behind the scenes earned head coach Tom Thibodeau's respect, and eventually earned Butler some playing time. Butler's self-made star turn also kept the Bulls competitive despite the injuries that beset former MVP Derrick Rose, as Thibodeau had found a budding star who seemed to get a Thibodeau-esque sick satisfaction out of being run into the ground. After averaging 2.6 points in less than 9 minutes per game as a rookie, by year 4, Butler had become a 20-point-per-game scorer and led the league in minutes, winning Most Improved Player and making his first All-Star team while leading Chicago to 50 wins and the second round of the playoffs.
Jimmy starts to drive, step back in the air.
Oh, heavy step back and kiss myself. Jimmy G buckets. The G stands for gets.
From that point on, the Bulls should have been doing whatever it took to keep Butler happy. Instead, despite locking the young star up long term, Chicago began a slow, painful process of inadvertently pushing Butler out the door. For one, they replaced Thibodeau with Fred Hoiberg, which, in Butler's eyes, might as well have been replacing a lion with a house cat. Butler took issue with Hoiberg's soft coaching almost immediately. Then the Bulls' former front office of Garth Foreman and John Paxson, a combo that was always good for at least one head-scratching decision a month, thought assembling a team with zero shooting around the trio of Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rajon Rondo was a good idea. When that setup predictably failed, and the Bulls found themselves at a crossroads between an all-star talent under team control or an unproven coach, they chose the coach.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
The Bulls reunited Butler with Thibodeau in Minnesota, acquiring Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, and Chris Dunn in the process. A decent haul, but nowhere near enough for a player of Butler's caliber. In the 3 years since, Chicago's yet to even crack the 30-win mark, are on their third coach, and just remade their front office. I guess Jimmy wasn't the problem. In Minnesota, Butler helped the Timberwolves end a 14-year playoff drought in his only full season with the franchise.
3 seconds, 1 second. The drought is finally over.
Butler's value to the team was painfully obvious during that 2017-18 season, as while the Wolves needed to win game 82 just to make the playoffs, Minnesota actually went 38-21, a 53-win pace with Butler in the lineup. That success notwithstanding, the fit in Minnesota never made much sense in the locker room. Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most offensively gifted big men we've ever seen, and by all accounts, he's a good dude. But he also has a reputation for being far too passive for a franchise star. Andrew Wiggins, meanwhile, has long been viewed as the type of frustrating player who doesn't get anywhere near enough out of his tremendous talent. How was Jimmy Butler, the guy who worked his way up from the scrap heap of JUCO ball to Marquette, to the 30th pick in the draft, to All-Star, of all people, supposed to jive with those personality types? Butler asked out of Minnesota before his second season with the franchise had even tipped off. And when he didn't get his way, he took a flamethrower to the team in what's now one of the most infamous practices in NBA history. Butler and a cast of third stringers reportedly beat a team led by Towns and Wiggins, with Jimmy Buckets talking trash to anyone and everyone in his way that day. As if the story wasn't already sensational enough, Butler then went on national TV to confirm it.
That you told GM Scott Layton, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it's true. A lot of it is true. If you didn't like the way that I handled myself in practice, one of the players come up to me. Somebody say something. Anybody. I'm not going to take it offense. It's not personal.
Talk about Mamba mentality. The Timberwolves eventually granted Butler's request early in the 2018-19 season, sending him to Philadelphia to play out the final year of his contract, with Minnesota receiving Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a second-round pick in return. In the 2 seasons since, the Timberwolves have yet to get back to the playoffs, fired Thibodeau, and traded Wiggins. I guess Butler wasn't the problem. In the city of brotherly love, Butler gave the Sixers a jolt. He didn't solve Philadelphia's shooting woes, but he did give Joel Embiid's Sixers the type of star shot creator and pick and roll operator they so desperately needed given Ben Simmons' limitations. And for the most part, it worked. Sure, the Sixers lost in the second round of the playoffs, but they were the only team to push Kawhi Leonard and the eventual champion Raptors to the brink of elimination. They were a 4-bounce buzzer beater away from going to overtime in Game 7 against the champs. And they nearly got there because Butler did his damnedest to drag them to the finish line.
2-point game. Here comes Butler driving. Layup is caught.
Beneath the surface, however, tensions were rising. While Butler and Embiid got along great, the same can't be said for Butler and Simmons, or for Butler and head coach Brett Brown. According to reports, Butler and Brown clashed shortly after Jimmy's arrival, and Simmons took issue with a message Butler sent in a team chat that, according to Chris Haynes, instructed Simmons what not to do in an upcoming game. Butler would later go on to explain why he walked away from the Sixers as a free agent.
Somebody asked, can you control him? Like, can you control Jimmy? If you can control Jimmy, we would think about having him back. I was like, you don't got to worry about it. Shit, can't nobody control me. For one, I ain't just out there doing no bullshit, but the fact that you trying to control a grown man, nah, I'm cool.
The Sixers' 2019 offseason consisted of losing Butler and letting the invaluable JJ Redick walk, while giving the duo of Tobias Harris and whatever was left of Al Horford a combined $280 million. A year later, after stumbling through a tumultuous season, the Sixers were swept out of the first round and fired Brown. You know where I'm going with this. I guess Jimmy wasn't the problem. For Butler, that 2019 offseason was finally his chance to take control of his own narrative. Miami didn't have the cap space required to sign a max free agent. But Butler knew where he wanted to be. And when a player as powerful as Jimmy Butler wants to play for a team run by an executive as powerful as Pat Riley, the deal's getting done, come hell or high water.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Riley's Heat shed salary, and Butler was acquired via sign and trade in a 4-team blockbuster. Butler's a Texas native who had never played for Miami, but in so many ways, it felt like the Heat were bringing Jimmy Buckets home. The house that Riley built, Heat culture, means Miami is going to outwork you even when they're the most talented team on the floor. It means they're going to be in better shape than you. They're going to be meaner than you. They sure as hell don't care about anything less than competing for championships. And if you're their prized franchise star, guess what? Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and Heat culture as a whole are going to challenge you too, even if your name's LeBron James. How perfect for Butler, a headstrong player who wants to be challenged by those he respects, whose penchant for working out at insane hours has become a running joke, and who isn't here to make friends with the enemy.
Don't care. I don't need friends here in the bubble.
Teams that became far too comfortable with losing viewed Butler as a problem they needed to rein in or control. In Miami, Butler and the Heat have already worked wonders together. The stubborn star, who was supposedly hard to get along with, spent all season elevating his teammates, proving a great leader for budding stars like Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. The guy who was supposed to be a coach killer had one of the best and toughest coaches of his generation singing his praises.
Every young player coming into this league should study footage on Jimmy Butler. The definition of a two-way player, competing on both ends.
The intertwining of Heat culture and the culture of Jimmy Buckets was a match made in basketball heaven. And now there's hell to pay for the rest of the NBA. Butler made his 5th All-Star team, his 3rd All-NBA team, and led the Heat to the franchise's first finals appearance in their post-LeBron era, averaging roughly 26 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals in the championship series to push the James-led Lakers to 6 games, despite injuries to Adebayo and Goran Dragic.
Oh yeah, Jimmy played pretty good.
With Butler carrying the torch for Riley's franchise, and with the young talent and cap space at Miami's disposal, the Heat are perhaps the league's scariest team going forward. The same sure as hell can't be said for the teams Jimmy Butler left behind. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.